Imagine a time when the California coast was not a journey of leisure, but a rugged expedition of endurance. In the early 20th century, the golden dream of the automobile brought freedom, but the roads demanded a heavy price. There were no rest stops, no neon signs, just 400 miles of dust between Los Angeles and San Francisco. It was a world waiting for a vision to bridge the gap between the wilderness and comfort. For the pioneer motorist, the journey was a grueling 2-day affair dictated by the reliability of the engine and the quality of the dirt beneath the wheels. As night fell, the romance of the open road quickly turned into the anxiety of the pitch black. Travelers were often forced to pitch makeshift tents by the roadside or curl up in cramping back seats. The automobile promised liberty, but it had yet to offer a good night's sleep. Enter Arthur Heineman, an architect who saw not just a logistical problem, but a golden opportunity in the dust. He realized that the modern traveler needed more than a campsite, yet less formality than a downtown grand hotel. He envisioned a sanctuary located exactly halfway along the arduous coastal route. His idea was radical in its simplicity, a home for both the driver and the machine. Heineman didn't just want to build a shelter. He wanted to create a destination that felt native to the California soul. He designed individual bungalows that offered the privacy of a home with the convenience of a roadside stop. The architecture paid homage to the Spanish missions, grounding this new futuristic concept in history. It was to be a place of rest, distinct from the cold anonymity of city lodging. But what to call this new invention? It wasn't quite a hotel, and it certainly wasn't a camp. Heineman played with the language, fusing motor and hotel into a strange new portmanteau, the Motel. At that moment, in San Luis Obispo, a word was born that would eventually flicker in neon lights across the entire globe. On a cool December day in 1925, the Milestone Mo-Tel threw open its doors to a curious public. It was a revolutionary moment for the American traveler, marking the transition from survival to leisure. For the first time, you could drive your car right up to your door, blurring the line between the journey and the destination. The concept of the road trip was forever changed.
Welcome to the plaza, sir. Thank you, my good man.
Heineman understood that privacy was the ultimate luxury for the weary motorist. Unlike the communal washrooms of campgrounds, here there were indoor showers and private toilets. You could wash off the road dust in hot water and sleep on a mattress that rivaled the best city hotels. And perhaps most importantly, your beloved automobile was parked right outside your window, safe and sound. This was the hook that captivated the motoring public, the perfect blend of autonomy and service. It cost $80,000 to build, a fortune in those days, but it offered a priceless sense of security. The traveler was no longer a vagabond. They were a guest in a purpose-built oasis. It was civilization, planted firmly by the side of the road. Heineman's vision extended beyond just a bed. He wanted a self-sufficient village for the traveler. For just $1.25 a night, guests received shelter, but the site also boasted a grocery store, laundry facilities, and a restaurant. It was a complete ecosystem designed to recharge both the driver and the car before they faced the road again. The crowning jewel of the property was the Bell Tower, a graceful nod to the California missions that had once sheltered travelers on foot and horseback. It was a symbol of sanctuary, signaling to drivers miles away that rest was near. This wasn't just a business. It was architectural branding, a visual promise of comfort that Heineman intended to replicate up and down the coast. The Milestone Mo-Tel in San Luis Obispo was never meant to stand alone. It was intended as the prototype for an empire. The Milestone Interstate Corporation planned a chain of 18 locations, spaced perfectly at day-long intervals from San Diego to Seattle. Heineman envisioned a world where a traveler could drive the entire Pacific coast, hopping securely from one Milestone Mo-Tel to the next. To build this empire, Arthur and his brother Alfred needed massive amounts of capital. They pitched their hearts out, convinced that the automobile was the future of the American economy. They weren't just selling real estate, they were selling the concept of mobility itself. But seeing the future and paying for it are two very different things.
Gentlemen, the future of travel is here. Our projections show a tenfold return on your capital. Your projections are fantasy, Heineman.
Gentlemen, the moment is now. The risks are great, but so are the rewards. We stand united. All in favor?
This proposal is reckless. It will ruin us all. No, inaction is the greater risk. We must act now. You will regret this. The projections align with our expectations. Indeed, the variables are accounted for. Then we proceed. Agreed.
Then came the twist that would haunt the Heineman legacy forever. They attempted to trademark the word motel, to own the very language they had invented. But the courts denied them, ruling that it was merely a descriptive term, open for anyone to use. Suddenly, the unique identity they had crafted was free for the taking. Prompt 14. The floodgates opened, and competitors rushed in, stealing the name without matching the quality. Inferior motor courts sprang up overnight, offering lower prices and diluting the market. Heineman's architectural masterpiece was suddenly fighting a war against generic copycats who could undercut his prices. The visionary was being drowned out by the very trend he started. If the trademark loss was a stumble, the Great Depression was the knockout blow. As the economy collapsed, investment dollars evaporated, and the grand plans for a coastal chain turned to dust. The dream of 18 gleaming mission-style resorts withered on the vine. The Milestone Interstate Corporation could no longer sustain the weight of its own ambition. The financial strain became unbearable, and the inevitable heartbreak arrived. The Heineman brothers lost their flagship property, the very cradle of the motel industry, to foreclosure. The Milestone branding was stripped away, and the property was renamed simply the Motel Inn. The creators were ousted from their creation, leaving their prototype to face the future alone. The Motel Inn survived, but it lost its revolutionary sparkle. As the decades rolled on, it became a relic of a bygone era, overshadowed by modern chains and high-speed interstates. It served its purpose as a functional stop, but few guests realized they were sleeping in a historical monument. The world had moved on, driving faster and further, leaving the original Motel in the rearview mirror. By the late 20th century, the Motel Inn was a shadow of its former self. The Spanish tiles were chipped, and the novelty of the motor hotel had long since worn off. It was no longer a destination. It was a cheap place to crash. The architecture that once heralded the future now seemed trapped in the past. In 1991, the doors were locked for the final time. The Motel Inn, the progenitor of every Holiday Inn and Super 8 in the world, ceased operations. It sat silent next to the roaring Highway 101, a ghost watching the endless stream of traffic it had helped create. The rooms that once hosted the pioneers of the road now hosted only dust and memories. Progress is often unkind to history. In 2006, much of the complex was demolished, the bungalows flattened to clear the land. It seemed the end had truly come. Yet, amidst the rubble, two fragments refused to fall: the administrative building and the iconic mission-style bell tower. They stood defiant, skeletal reminders of the innovation that happened. For years, these ruins stood as a peculiar landmark in San Luis Obispo. To the uninitiated, they were just old walls. To the historian, they were sacred ground. This was the birthplace of a global industry, now reduced to a few crumbling arches. It was a melancholy sight, a testament to how quickly we forget the origins of our daily conveniences. But a story this significant rarely ends in total darkness. The neighboring Apple Farm Inn, a thriving establishment, cast its eye upon the ruins. They saw value where others saw blight. A plan was hatched not to bulldoze the remains, but to embrace them. The expansion of the Apple Farm would weave the DNA of the original Motel into a new future. The vision is one of resurrection. The expansion plans involve incorporating the surviving structures into additional guest rooms and facilities. It is a delicate surgery, grafting the historic roots of 1925 onto the modern hospitality of the 21st century. The goal is to honor Heineman's design while meeting the standards of today's traveler. Located at the end of Monterey Street, right beside the on-ramp to the 101, the site remains a gateway. The road has become faster, louder, and wider, but the location is still the same strategic midpoint Heineman identified a century ago. The geography of the journey hasn't changed, only the speed at which we travel it. Preservation is an act of respect. As the Apple Farm Inn works to revitalize these stones, they are saving more than just a building. They are saving the physical evidence of a turning point in American culture. They are ensuring that the milestone in the original name continues to have meaning. Consider the ripple effect of what started here. From this single lot in San Luis Obispo, the concept of the motel spread to every continent. It democratized travel, making the world accessible to anyone with a car and a few dollars. Every time you check into a roadside inn, you are participating in a ritual that began right here. The word motel is now generic, a fixture of our vocabulary. But the place, the Milestone Mo-Tel, was specific, unique, and visionary. It was a bridge between the wild and the tame, built by a man who knew that the road was only as good as the rest it afforded. Today, as the apple farm expands, it offers guests a chance to touch history. It transforms a stay into a lesson. Travelers can stand in the shadow of the bell tower and imagine the rumble of a Model T, the smell of unpaved roads, and the relief of seeing a friendly light in the distance. The definition of luxury has changed. We now demand Wi-Fi, climate control, and streaming services. But the core need remains identical to 1925, a safe harbor after a long journey. The human body still tires, and the road still demands our attention. Heineman's insight into human nature was timeless. Arthur Heineman may have lost his fortune and his trademark, but he won the war of ideas. He fundamentally altered the landscape of the modern world. His name may not be on the neon signs, but his invention is everywhere. He designed the way we move. Inside the shell of the tower, there is a stillness. It is a cathedral to the automobile age. It reminds us that before the interstates and the chains, there was just an idea that comfort shouldn't be reserved for the rich, but available to the roamer. The footprint of the Milestone Mo-Tel is stamped into the earth of San Luis Obispo. Even as the city grows around it, the geometry of Heineman's plan insists on being seen. It is a permanent scar of innovation, a reminder that this town was the fulcrum upon which California travel tipped. The walls have witnessed the evolution of the machine. They have seen the transition from wooden wheels to rubber, from steam to gasoline, and now to electric power. They are silent sentinels of the automotive century. For the guest at the Apple Farm Inn, this history adds a layer of depth to their visit. They aren't just sleeping in a room, they are sleeping next to the origin point. It creates a connection, a sense of place that no generic chain hotel can ever replicate. In a world of copycats, there is power in being the first. The Milestone Mo-Tel was the original spark. It set the standard for convenience, pricing, and layout that would be copied millions of times. It is the great ancestor of the American roadside. The drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco is still a journey of awe. The cliffs, the ocean, the winding tarmac. But now we take the stopover for granted. We assume there will be a bed waiting. We forget that someone had to dream that bed into existence. The restoration brings the story full circle. From a celebrated opening, to a slow decline, to near total destruction, and finally to rebirth. The site is finding a new purpose, proving that good architecture and a strong story are resilient enough to survive even the wrecking ball. If Arthur Heineman were to stand here today, he might marvel at the technology, but he would recognize the intent. He would see travelers seeking refuge. He would see the fulfillment of his wish, that the road should be a place of hospitality, not hardship. The Milestone Mo-Tel is more than a ruin. It is a monument to the American spirit of movement. It stands at the crossroads of history and progress, reminding us that every journey needs a pause. The dust has settled, but the legacy remains. So next time you pull off the highway, tired and looking for a place to rest your head, remember the milestone. Remember the vision in the dust. And remember that the comfort you find was born right here, under the California stars.
Hey everyone, welcome to Travaday. Subscribe now for daily travel tips and adventures. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button.